Elise Stefanik, New York Congresswoman and chair of the House Republican Conference, the third-ranking House Republican, is in focus. She's also a member of the House Armed Services, Education, and Intelligence Committees. She's very busy and has time to stop by and continue with us because you've had quite a dialogue going on with the American people. Let's first of all, we'll get to that in a moment, but let's start with last night and your top-line thoughts.
My top-line thoughts, Harris, was this was a big night for the Republican Party. Here are some important statistics that haven't been covered yet, but are really an indicator of how big this red wave is going to be this November. This was the highest Republican turnout across the board in a primary in over 2 decades. Also, if you look at the state of Pennsylvania, 62% of unaffiliated voters broke for and voted for the Republican Party. So you can see the energy is there, the enthusiasm is there. We got to continue to work to make the case about how we will save this country from the destruction we're seeing under unified, failed, far-left Democrat government. Another important takeaway is Joe Biden's first endorsed candidate, Kurt Schrader, lost in his primary in Oregon. That is an indicator not only of Joe Biden's plummeting support, but you can see the Democrat Party, whether it's the Pennsylvania Senate outcome or that Oregon race, lurching further and further to the left.
Well, you know, it's interesting, too, just real quickly to compare kind of kingmaker status, if you will. President Biden is somebody who is underwater in nearly everything you poll in terms of what people say is important to them, voters say. And of course, his overall approval rating is very low as well. What do you make of kind of him versus Trump and their ability yesterday and moving forward to make a difference in the midterms for their teams, if you will?
Well, it's the exact opposite. Joe Biden, no Democrat in a swing district wants Joe Biden to campaign for them. No Democrat in facing a tough primary wants Joe Biden to campaign for them. So Joe Biden's approval continues to plummet among Democrats, as well as, of course, independent voters across the country. That's the opposite of President Trump. President Trump provides energy, support, and his endorsement is the most sought-after endorsement for any Republican candidate. I've been proud to earn the support of President Trump. He knows how important it is to win these races, to flip the House, flip the Senate, to make sure that we can save this country, as I said, from these policies that are failing hardworking Americans that we're seeing under Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, it is intriguing. A former versus a present, and the present guy has the bully pulpit and is struggling mightily with being able to help others. All right, let's move on. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi suggesting there could be criminal charges now in the ongoing baby formula crisis, which has parents scrambling to feed their little ones. Let's watch together.
I think that when all of this is done, I'm not associating my colleagues with what I'm going to say right now. I'm just saying it myself. I think there might be a need for indictment.
Not associating herself with her colleagues. Okay. Her remarks came as House Democrats have put forth a $28 million aid bill to address the baby formula shortage. And a federal judge yesterday signed off on a deal between the FDA and baby formula maker Abbott Labs. That's the company the White House has been blaming for the shortage after its own FDA cleared it to reopen. The deal lays out steps about Abbott needing to restart production, but it could be months before the product is actually on store shelves. Meanwhile, it's reported that 2 young children in Tennessee are hospitalized with intestinal problems. The doctor that's treating them says they both suffer from those issues and need to eat a particular formula that apparently is in short supply. Congresswoman Stefanik, I said you've been having a conversation with the American people. You're in the nomenclature with some of the things going on, some of the ideas that could make it better. Please expound.
Well, first of all, I'm a new mom. I am the proud mom of my 9-month-old Sam. He is formula fed, so there is nothing more harrowing than a parent desperately trying to find the right formula to feed their babies and then finding shelves empty. But what's really disappointing is, yet again, you have the President of the United States and Democrats attempting to pass the buck. They weren't paying any attention to this issue. They dismissed this issue with laughter just 1 week ago, Harris. They had no plan. It was Republicans Republicans, and I was proud to lead this, that in February, we demanded from the FDA accountability and a plan to address the supply issue when the decision was made to shut down the plant in Sturgis, Michigan. Do you know how long it took for the FDA to respond? They didn't respond to me until last week, mid-May, because I blasted them from the Capitol steps that this was a crisis for families across the country. Joe Biden was forced to change his schedule to get on the phone with formula manufacturers because House Republicans had a press conference on this. So Democrats have been asleep at the switch. Nancy Pelosi is, again, trying to point fingers, but it's the FDA. She's talking about criminal indictments on the manufacturing formula makers. I think this is going to be a huge government controversy, and there must be accountability on the failures of the FDA. This is Joe Biden's fault and their incompetence.
You know, we took your news conference with all of your Republican people in the House, and I don't know if there was a senator there or not, or if it was all House, but whatever it was within minutes that we heard from the White House that he'd be having that virtual call to be announced exactly what time. So to spend $28 million on this shortage right now, from what we learned from Congresswoman Kamek earlier this week, we had $130 million in the federal food fund, right, through FEMA for emergencies and whatnot, that went to busing and flying around illegals from the border. So 28 million versus the 130 that they might have had their hands on for emergency. And it is an emergency. All right, we'll move on. A Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas with some words for would-be illegal immigrants during a visit to the southern border. Let's watch.
Do not place your lives in the hands of individuals who only seek to exploit your lives. We are building safe, orderly, and humane pathways to access the benefits that the law provides. But traveling from one country to another in the hands of smugglers is not the way to achieve relief.
Congresswoman Stefanik.
Secretary Mayorkas, they have no operational control over the border, and what's very concerning about what he said is the way to stop this humanitarian crisis and security crisis at our southern border is to secure the border. This is the reason why the American people are so frustrated with the absolute failure and dereliction of duty, not only of Secretary Mayorkas at the Department of Homeland Security, but of Joe Biden, the President of the United States, who has yet to ever visit the southern border in his entire career in public service, which is longer than I've been alive. I've been to the border. I went a few weeks ago to Eagle Pass, Texas. This is, as I said, a horrific humanitarian crisis. Our border is wide open, and it impacts every state and community across America. I represent Border Patrol officers in northern New York who are stationed on the U.S.-Canadian border who have been transferred over and over and over again. Meanwhile, we see fentanyl flowing freely across our southern border into communities across the country, leading to fentanyl overdoses being the leading cause of death for adults 18 to 45. Mayorkas is not doing his job. The president is not doing his job. House Republicans are going to run on securing the border. We are going to immediately put legislation on the floor of the House to secure the border and return to the effective Trump policies.
Wow, you brought information that at least I didn't know, that they were taking resources from one border to put them down at another border. And you know, people who don't like us might be watching that sort of thing. Wow. Congresswoman Stefanik, thank you so very much for being in focus. Great to have you.
Thank you, Harris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.